Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and I want to talk about my theories and predictions for the final episode of Season 4 of Lower Decks. And it might contain spoilers for the last two episodes of the season. We've seen in episode 9 that the main villain behind that ship, which was abducting many different ships in the galaxy, was none other than Nick Locarno, the cadet that was kicked out of Starfleet back in the TNG episode, The First Duty, because he wanted his team, the Nova Squad, to do a forbidden space stunt called the Colvert Starburst, in which their small ships fly really close to each other, vent their plasma and ignite it to form what looks like a star in the sky. Maybe that's the reason that he named his squad the Nova Squad, because he was always planning to do this stunt. And because he got a cadet killed while trying to do it and tried to cover it up, he was kicked out of Starfleet. And apparently he never got over it, because we see that he's calling his ship the Nova 1, and apparently he took over many other ships in the galaxy, all the ones that we thought he was destroying early on. Apparently he just kidnapped them and made it look like they were destroyed, and somehow took them over or brainwashed their crew. It was not yet explained. And he's wearing a symbol that looks exactly like that maneuver that he tried to pull off in the academy, and the ships that he took over also have the same symbol. And he even calls them the Nova Fleet. And that means he never got over that obsession of doing that maneuver in space, and he still planned to do it with other ships, I guess. And what worries me about this whole plot line is that they have not yet once mentioned the fact that he looks and sounds exactly like Tom Paris from Voyager. And I'm kind of worried they're not going to explain it, and I think that would be a missed opportunity, because there are so many ways they can explain it in a funny and interesting way, but I'm kind of getting the feeling that the whole joke is that it's not going to be explained, that they're going to treat him as a completely separate and different character, and not once going to mention that he looks and sounds exactly like Tom Paris and played by the same actor. And that would annoy me, because I prefer it when they do explain things and tie things together. And also I think it would be interesting to do that. I think it will be more interesting than just him being a crazy former cadet with this strange obsession of finishing that maneuver he wanted to do really badly in the academy and got kicked out. And since then he's been planning to somehow do it by kidnapping other ships or something. So I hope there will be something bigger than that and more interesting than that. There should be at least one line of dialogue somehow addressing it. Maybe when Boimler sees him, he would say, "You remind me of someone else," and then he can say, "I get that a lot." Or some kind of joke at least, because if there will be no mention of the fact that he looks and sounds like Tom Paris, I think that will be a huge missed opportunity not to do something with that. And the way I see it, there are two interesting theories that might explain it. One I talked about in the end of my previous review of episode 9, when I said maybe they will reveal that he was always the mirror Tom Paris, the Tom Paris from the mirror universe who somehow ended up in this one, and then faked himself a new identity, gave himself a new name, and went into the academy, and that will explain why he's so ambitious, why he's kind of slightly more evil than the normal Tom Paris. And maybe they can even say that maybe he wanted to do that stunt because that will somehow open a doorway for him to get back to his own universe. Maybe if he transports himself during that stunt, it will allow him to beam back to his own universe, something like that, some kind of reason for why he's so obsessed with it. Even though in Deep Space Nine they show that it's pretty easy to get into the mirror universe, you can use a small device while you're beaming, or you can go through the wormhole and cause some malfunction in your engines, and so there are easy ways to get there. So how come he's not aware of that? Maybe Starfleet classified all of that, and so he's using his own idea of creating this plasma burst using these closed ships to make this star formation, because that will somehow allow him to beam back to his own universe. So that's one option. The only real problem with that is that how come no one ever noticed that he looks like Tom Paris when he went to the academy at around the same exact time as Tom Paris was in the academy? So you would think that would be kind of strange that people would be noticing that. So that kind of makes all of that theory slightly illogical. Another possibility is that maybe he's another transporter clone. We know of at least two transporter clones in existence. We know of Thomas Riker, who in the previous episode they also confirmed is still alive, because when they showed the list of people that Starfleet is looking for, he was on that list as well, together with Locarno. And that might be another clue that it's all connected. And we also know of the Boimler transporter clone, which in the previous season also faked his own death and then joined Section 31, and we never saw him since. And so this has been a whole season without any mention of that, so maybe in the last episode they will reveal that all these transporter clones are all conspiring together for some reason. So maybe we'll see the other Boimler, maybe we'll finally see Thomas Riker coming back. You know, Jonathan Frakes is always down to appear in all of these shows, and so it's a high possibility. And it will finally explain why Locarno always looked like Tom Paris. Maybe he was another transporter accident, and maybe Starfleet didn't want people to know about this possibility that a transporter can split you in two, and so maybe they wanted to classify all of it, and so they gave him a new identity, but allowed him to stay in the academy. They didn't want to kick him out just because there are two of them, and so one of them wanted to change his name, so they allowed it. And maybe they kept them in very separate places in the academy, in different classes, and so that less people will notice that. And I think it will be a neat explanation. And if they are going that route, that most likely we'll see the other transporter clones I mentioned, and so the evil Boimler who joined Section 31 will probably show up, and maybe finally we'll see Thomas Riker, which I will be happy about, not just because I love Jonathan Frakes, but it always annoyed me for how many years now? 20 years? They never explained what happened with Thomas Riker after the Dominion War. You know, the last time we saw him, it was before the war. He was locked up for life in a Cardassian prison, and later on, Cardassia was taken over by the Dominion, and then it was completely destroyed in the war, and so we never heard what happened with Thomas Riker after that, even though Kira promised him will come and rescue you, but it never happened in Deep Space Nine, and that's something that always annoyed me a little bit. I personally love to tie up loose ends like that. I don't want to leave it hanging. And so I personally would love to see Thomas Riker, and he was shown in that list of people in the previous episode, so that might be a clue. And hopefully he will come back, and maybe he will be the main bad guy and not Locarno who's just doing his bidding. Maybe Thomas Riker organized all the transporter clones to come together into one team for some reason, and Locarno is just one of them. I think that will be much more epic and much more interesting than just Locarno being the bad guy because he's just obsessed about some maneuver he wanted to do in the academy. And if they will not provide any explanation for why he looks like Tom Paris, that will really annoy me because I think it will be a missed opportunity. So I'm really hoping that's not the case, but we'll find out in just one more day. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think about all of this, and we can discuss it in the comments below. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.